Morning. Good morning. Hello, Caragwen. Hello, Natalie Rose. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. Hi. Um, hope that everybody had a smooth entry into this week on Monday after the big energies of the full moon eclipse. There's something that I didn't talk about yesterday because I've been researching and reading, but I do want to talk about today, which is the shooting in Buffalo over the weekend. I'd like to just for a moment take a moment of silence for the victims of that shooting and their families. I grew up near Buffalo in Western New York in the Southern Tier, which is a largely white area. And I am of a mixed race family. And so witnessing the microaggressions directed toward my siblings, witnessing microaggressions and outright aggression directed toward people of color is something that has been part of my life as somebody living there. And to see today in the Washington Post the article detailing all of the plans that were made by the shooter, I'm not going to say his name, I'm not going to give him any energy um, or life force, but there were very, very detailed plans made by that shooter and documented online. He wrote on dozens of message boards about his racist ideas that people of color had been brought to this country to replace white people, and he actually called people of color the replacers. It is absolutely unconscionable to think this way. Um, Obviously it adds insult to injury that already there are many, many people of color here who wouldn't be here unless they had been kidnapped unless their ancestors had been kidnapped and enslaved and then forced to come here against their will. So for us to see this language of replacement as and hear him justifying the incredibly detailed plans that he made up to and including purchasing weapons, mapping out the route to as many different places where he thought that particularly Black people would be shopping, and that he calculated how much time it would take to get from one of those locations to another and how many people he thought he could kill with the weapons that he was bringing. To read that, to look over the evidence gathered meticulously by the Post to document all of what's going on in this case, it is staggering. It is a grieving, and it is unconscionable. And the fact that now it appears, as of this morning when I saw in the article, that he's pleading not guilty, but he definitely did this. I think he's pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, but it took remarkable sort of discipline and possession of thought to line up all of these plans that he made and then to describe them, to um, map it all out. That is not the work of somebody who doesn't have possession of their faculties. And I would just invite, I'm about to say something that may come across as controversial. I would invite any, especially any white mother of a teenager or young male in this culture to analyze her own feelings of wondering if something could be done for his mental health. Because in that, there is a kind of a sense that this is just again and again some kind of an issue with misguided youth, instead of actually acknowledging that this is a cultural phenomena born of a racist civilization in which violence is considered to be a, a mark of manhood. So I'm not saying that we can't hold compassion for the conditions that have malformed so many minds. I'm saying that the malformation of those minds is never addressed as long as we use compassion as a reason to excuse the actions born of that sickness. I hope that the insanity defense for this case does not work. I hope that this individual is tried properly. And with a court system in which there has been so much malfeasance against people of color in the United States, I hope that we will, all of us collectively, see the absolute injustice that this young man was, whilst wielding a weapon, taken into custody nonviolently, while many, many young men of color have just been shot on sight, regardless of what they actually had in their hands. So I felt like I needed to speak to this today. The severity of this problem is staggering. And white mothers, it is your job to fix it. Okay, so now I feel like I can move into Oshun and the sweetness that she brings. And today I'd like us to direct the sweetness of Oshun as a balm to the hearts of all of those who are sorrowing, suffering, those grieving, those who are angry, those who are fearful, those who are impacted by racist violence every day. I'd also like us to add to our devotional today, my mom, who was bitten by a spider, and the spider is is in the brown recluse family. It wasn't a brown recluse, but it's in that same family of spiders, and she's really struggling with this spider bite. So if we could please hold her in our prayers today. And I also would like to ask us to hold Laureen, who has been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and goes for surgery this week. I bow to Oshun. There's nowhere that it is not known that Oshun is as mighty as a king. She dances and takes the crown. She dances without asking. She arrives and trouble is appeased. She shakes her bracelets to come to the dance. She dances in the depths of richness. The water sounds like the bracelets of Oshun. We call to her, and she answers with wisdom. She can heal what the doctor can't. The Orisha, who heals with cold water. We can stay in the world without fear. And our card today is Sache, Sawtche. Sache. Grounding is her keyword. And let's have a look at card number 3. So she is from the Kukun people of South Africa. You may know the great ancestress Sache as Sartye or Sarah Bartman, the woman forced to perform as the Hottentot Venus in 19th century London. But before that, she was Sache, a Kukun girl in South Africa who deserved better. I don't know if you're aware of this, but this woman, Sache, who became known as Sarah Bartman, was required to be part of a kind of a circus, and she was to appear without clothing so that the people of London could examine and mock her body, um, the figure of her body that was so different to the white women and the fashion of the time. So her hips and her breasts and her hair and her lips and her features were the subject of ridicule and were the subject of fascination for people who felt that she was an animal and treated her like an animal. Her guidance is protect your magic. Your heart is your own, your body is your own, your mind is your own. Your truth and story are your own. Be rooted in your truth. Create healthy boundaries. If your energy is unsteady, breathe. Come into the present. Say out loud, I am here. Trauma, stress, overwhelm, anxiety, and fear can disconnect you from your body. Grounding keeps you present. When you feel rootless or unsettled, come back to the breath. Meditation and breath work are grounding. Try earthing, connecting your bare feet to the soil. Free writing, clapping, stomping, and rubbing your hands together can all be grounding. And the goddess declaration for today is I am firmly planted and deeply rooted. So, Sawtche is how you spell the name. And if you'd like to read about or research her story, you can also look under the name Sarah with an H, Bartman, Baartman, who was held up for scorn and ridicule, examination and exoticization, and to really think about what it must have taken for her every single day to have to step out onto that stage fully naked or wearing very little and allow people to look upon her body. How that stole something from her, but at the same time, how every single one of us can conjure the energy and the tools of self possession, regardless of even the most horrific of circumstances, and that this is something that is necessary, especially in these traumatic times for many people, whether it's people who are dealing with racist violence, whether it's people who are dealing with the constant torrent of microaggressions, whether it's people who are still suffering from the loss of a loved one to COVID and watching how the world is merrily floating on, whether it's people who are struggling with their losses financially due to the pandemic and all of the impact that it's had on people's business. So let's take the time today, wherever we find ourselves, whatever it is that might be the destabilizing factor for you, may be very different than someone else's destabilizing factor. But let's take the time today to stabilize ourselves with the breath and grounding, and then to work on utilizing that energy that we can bring for ourselves to stabilize the entire field, the entire resonance field around us. And let's now dive into practice. We're going to start with 3 prostrations before the shrine. And let's take refuge. Namo Guru Be. I take refuge in the inner teacher. Namo Buddhaye. I take refuge in the great mother of compassion. Namo Dharmaye. I take refuge in the wisdom of the ages. Namo Sanghaye. I take refuge in the community of practitioners. And let's set our intention, a person, place, situation, or circumstance that benefits from today's practice. Today, we're holding everyone who is traumatized by the events in Buffalo, especially those grieving families and loved ones. We're holding my mom with her spider bite. We're holding Laureen with her upcoming surgery. And let's recite the 4 immeasurables. May I be a source of loving kindness in this world and all worlds, bringing a generous heart to all my thoughts and doings. May I be a vehicle of compassion in this world and all worlds, ever mindful and aware of the tremendous suffering of others. May I be a brimming vessel of joy in this world and all worlds, delighting in the happiness of others as their suffering is alleviated. May I be a balance point of equanimity in this world and all worlds, seeing all as equals and all as deserving of goodness. I light this candle as a symbol of the enlightening Dharma way. May it shine brightly for the benefit of all beings. I light this incense as an offering to Guan Yin, she who hears the cries of the world, mother of all. Omahum, 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 Omahum. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and virtual. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the meditation of all holy and ordinary beings. Please, Guanyin, remain until the end of samsaric existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merits of this practice to all in need. The end of that prayer just went right out of my head when I opened my eyes. Sentient beings. Well, we got it in. All right. Hmm, That's so interesting. When you've been doing a prayer for so long and then it just like runs away, but it'll be back tomorrow. 108 recitations of Namo Guanxin Pusa, calling out to Guanyin and asking her to send a balm to the hearts of the grieving, and also to come wielding the truth of compassion, not a fake kind of compassion that is permissive and helpless in the face of abject evil. Namo Guanxin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxin Pusa. Namo Guanxin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxin Pusa. Namo Guanxin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxin Pusa. Namo Guanxin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxin Pusa. Namo Guanxin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. And our prayer for Yeshit Sogil. Ying Shikdaki Soma Karchansa, Dusum Kunchen Pema Jungyeki, Sangso Dupo Dechen Sogel Mar Sowa Debso Chuktun Drupso, Mother of Space, foremost of Dakinis, Lady Karchansa, gatherer of the vast, secret treasury of Padmakara, knower of all, past, present, and future. Mother Tsogyal, great bliss queen, to you we pray. Grant us cities, ordinary and supreme. Ying chuktaki somo karchanza dusum kunchempema jingeki sangso dupo dechen so gyalmar sowa depso chuktu nudrupso. And 108 recitations of Om Mani Padme Hum, sending out our compassion to all those who need it today. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 And let's give thanks for our teachers. May all of my blessed teachers enjoy long, happy, healthy, productive lives and great support for their good works. May all beings benefit from their wisdom. May they enjoy a swift and happy rebirth. And long life prayer for Lama Dechen Yeshe Wangmo. Om Sosti. Through the powerful blessings of the immortal Pema Jungye and his consort, may the three secret qualities of the Dakini of Supreme Bliss, Yeshe Wangmo, be utterly stable, and may the light of her activities shine on the lotus groves of the teachings and of beings, so that they blossom in radiant splendor. And let's dedicate the merit. May the merit of this practice and all of my activities be of endless benefit to all beings in all realms, beginningless and continuous. May all obstacles be overcome and suffering cease at the sound of liberation. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May we carry the essence of Guanyin in our hearts. Namo Guanxin Pusa. And we close with a bow to Guanyin, bow to one another, and a bow to the inner teacher, and wishing everyone a peaceful and just day. Be back tomorrow.